you did a piece on Zach LaVine,
Hmm.
another guy who I think is playing out of his mind when healthy. Chicago, awesome. Definitely
Yeah.
beneficiaries of the Lakers being cheap and not wanting to pay Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
I mean, they are. They are. I mean, watching, as a very quick aside, watching Winning Time, which is causing obviously a lot of stirs
Oh
for
yeah.
people who are
As
living
I
the
knew it would.
historical land.
Yeah,
You did?
I saw the pilot at All Star, and I mean in the author community, Jeff Pearlman is a whale of in the sports world. So
Yep.
I shot him a DM after the premiere, and I said, or I guess it was like a soft premiere. I said, this is gonna be big, and he said, thank you, man. Like why do you like blah blah blah. It's definitely yeah. They do not pull any punches in that storytelling. That is for sure.
No, people. I hit up some people that covered the league during that era, and they were not happy. They said they would not watch it. They were not happy with the historical storytelling. Some of the details around, of course, Jerry West were people were very upset
Hmm.
about. So, but when I watched it though, I think the thing that stuck out was how committed Dr. Buss was to making a
Hmm.
team a contender no matter what. And I said when I
Yeah.
watched episode 1, 2, he would roll in his grave with this Alex Caruso stuff. It's like,
Yeah, no, I mean, look, a constant thing you hear in conversations around the NBA is that it all starts with ownership, right? And like, I mean, Mark Cuban is, considered to be this really competitive, bloodthirsty wannabe champion. I'm not saying he's a wannabe, he's a champion, he won a championship, but someone
yeah,
who wants to be a champion at year after year after year. There are teams who aren't, right? Mark Cuban doesn't pay the tax. Like, I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, he's proven a willingness to do so when it came up, but like, there are a few teams like Golden State and Brooklyn that are paying absorbent amounts of tax every single year to go get this done. I mean, the Clippers are obviously going to continue to spend and spend and spend. It's a real factor in this arms race that ultimately the title ends up becoming.
do you think Chicago falls into that because they haven't in the past been excited about overpaying
Hmm.
or paying fair value over the course of history, even when they had Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And now Zach LaVine has made it very clear to the world, not just last year, but this year, I'm a max player. I'm not going
Yeah.
to accept less than the very maximum that I can
Yeah.
make. Um, and now he's getting like PRP in his knee. He's got inflammation in his knee, and you're paying a shitload of money to everyone, including Vooch. Like,
Yeah.
do you think there's any
Well,
possibility? You did an awesome feature on him too, by the way. I like that piece a lot.
thank you. Thank you. It was a rare opportunity of the last 2 years to actually sit down with a player face to face and have a conversation. It was what a novel concept. It was. I mean, that's something I really miss, and I think it's one part of this whole transaction world that I'd be curious what my job would be like if I was then, going to someone at shoot around and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm hearing about you," and get their point. But he's been very clear, like you've said, that I mean he clearly views himself as one of these top guys, and he has performed as such. I think the Bulls have obviously made move after move after move to kind of win now and build a thing around him to get him into the postseason to show him they're a place to stick around with. But also at the time, like a couple years ago, they also wanted to see him in that environment and see if he could get to that level. I think those questions have already been solved, and clearly they're throwing out 3 year, 80 million plus deals to DeMar DeRozan in his 30s. Like they're willing to spend. Alonso contract. I mean, Levine's deal is going to be well over $200 million, regardless of if he gets that All NBA team. Um, Vooch's contract comes off the books, I believe, after next season, and they're already starting to. I mean, any smart front office is doing this. They're already starting to kind of hash some backup plans and who could we maybe bring in who could be a backup for him next year, but could be the starter after, like that type of stuff. I mean, I think Arturas Karnisovas up top and from Mark Eversley on down, like that staff is pretty filled out with people who are highly respected around the league. And Arturas comes from Denver most recently, Houston before that. Teams that really combine all facets of the team building dynamics where The draft is important. Trade and free agency is important. They've really flexed their muscles in all three of those categories in their tenure there. So, I mean, the Io pick of late obviously stands out to me recently. And I mean, Patrick Williams is someone that they kind of targeted pretty quickly, and he's a darling around the league. So, yeah, to answer your question, if the success comes, like clearly they've shown a ceiling now, we'll have to see when they're fully healthy in the postseason. And if this team at least wins one round, like I think obviously the excitement in Chicago from where the team's been of late will be pretty significant. If they can continue to move forward and that they can continue to be a real threat in the East, which, I mean, everyone in the East that I talk to in terms of executives and coaches among those top teams, they view Chicago as dangerous a threat as anybody. So if that continues, I think the Bulls will pay, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because they might end up having to play Boston in the first round, and Boston is a buzzsaw right now. That is a series I think a lot of people want to see. And maybe at that point, your expectations are just compete on a very high level with Boston, given the fact that we haven't been healthy all year. I'm hearing there's takes. I'm hearing there's some Jake's takes. You're not just a newsbreaker. You're not just a newsmaker. You have opinions, which is probably incredibly difficult in this space. We've talked about this before. I lead with takes, and then it's usually substantiated by mostly like things, very little things that I hear, and a lot of Jake Fischer type reporting. So I just remember all the things that you've written over the course of time, and those prior to you.
You're very good on the show, just dropping my dossier throughout the whole time here. So you did your homework clearly.
Here's the thing. I respect the hell out of you. When you came out, the one thing that I would say that, as just a quick aside, that is the most suspect thing you've ever written is when there was clearly a hit piece being written about Nate Bjorkgren. It wasn't yours, but you could tell it was like there was some stuff going on behind the scenes to like take him out. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, so my recollection of that was that, I mean, around the deadline, the talk was starting that, like, oh, the Nate Bjorkgren thing in Indy's bad. And I remember telling my editor, like, I don't want to be the bad guy. Like, I don't want to be the first person to say this guy's going to get fired after a year for being, by all accounts, a lunatic. I mean, I don't want to. That's what everyone was saying, So I knew that other people, let's say, weren't going to write the full details. And yes, there is a series of events where one person tweeted something out very briefly on Monday night, and then another story came out on Tuesday that had a little bit more details, and then my story came out on Wednesday that was like 2,000 words about it. And those details that I had been working on quietly, and honestly, I will say, seeing Tim Cato and Sam Amick write the Dallas stuff about Haralabob before all that whole situation blew up, that honestly pushed me. I was like, man, I should have just written that Bjorkgren stuff first. And it definitely got, I mean, it took all in a life. But yes, continue with whatever you were.
Anyway, but you're not just a newsbreaker, a newsmaker. I'm hearing that there are takes. So you come prepared with things, the opinions. We don't know which direction that they're going, so I'm just going to kind of like, what are some things that grind your gears that you have some strong opinions about around the NBA?
All right, they're all general, and this first one's not that controversial, but we got to get rid of the block charge. It is the dumbest rule possible. It's not a basketball play. When I play basketball as a 28-year-old with Achilles tendinosis, no one's taking a charge, because no one wants to get hurt, because we're not getting paid for it. And you know what? The game is fine, and it's better, and we don't have to worry about, like, when you're driving and then you pass it to someone in the corner, and then you no longer have the ball in your hands, and you take 2 steps because you have momentum, and you just run into someone who's just standing there. That's not a foul. That's just someone walking in front of you wanting to get hit. Like, that's not – that guy who's doing that should go play football or lacrosse. That's not what basketball is. That's my first take. Want me to keep going, or you got I
actually like that take. I think it's super whack, especially down the stretch. Like when you see guys very clearly they're planning to kick out and then they make contact, I don't think that should be a block or a charge. Like I hate it when it's a block more because it's like it's like I don't know why this guy's getting credit for this at all whatsoever.
Block.
So yeah, I agree. There's another rules change. Is this the second one? A rules change?
No, this is an NBA branding thought.
All right.
All the jerseys, it's gotten to a point where it's horrific. Like really, really bad. I found out. Yes, I found out recently that in a G League game, 2 teams walked out, both wearing white jerseys lately. Like, I mean, we're in this situation where like every team gets 5 new jerseys every year. The Heat have this like weird thing where, and the Cavs too, where every letter is different from the other one.
Looks like a ransom note.
This is an obvious money grab. Yeah, it looks like a ransom note. It's an obvious money grab. I think it really ruins like cultural development of like a pride thing with that team because you don't like. I remember when I was visiting college campuses in high school, like my guidance counselor said, like when you're walking around, the schools that are always wearing their like school stuff, like that's how you know the people there are like happy and like their school. So like if you're walking around town and like I don't know, when I see orange, I don't like just orange and like black. Like I don't necessarily think Nick. Maybe that's a bad example. I don't know. But like the Timberwolves lime green jerseys are an eyesore. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
How about the
Thunder
blue Bucks
don't have
ones?
any...
They're like the terrible.
Yeah. So
the Cream City.
I'm over all the jerseys. Maybe have just like one new one every year, or like one new alternate, and like one holiday, whether it's like they're on Christmas or like those St. Patty Days jerseys that used to come up, like those green Bulls ones, like maybe that, or like, and you wear your Christmas jersey not just on Christmas, like a couple of like the Christmas season, time, and maybe there's like the Hawks have a cool MLK Day jersey. Maybe there's like a one holiday that every team has. Maybe the Heat and the Suns and teams who all do the Latin American, Heritage Night jerseys that have pretty high Latin American population in their cities. Like maybe that's their alternate, but we can't have 5-6 alternates every year. Can't have it. It's too much.
I
it's
hate the digital.
My lawn.
I saw the digital paisanos on the floor at Chase Center. It's a digital ad on the floor, digital. And was it for the NBC Sports Washington Wizards versus Warriors? And it was it was like a DC Italian restaurant. Probably paid $10 for that ad, max. And like when you walk over it, your feet go digital too. Yeah. I hate that.
Yeah.
That should not be okay.
We gotta get rid of that. It first happened in the bubble because they had to do that for all the local RSNs. But they only had like 3 courts. Yeah, no, and I remember Kia was advertising on the playoffs, but they changed their logo, and I remember me and my roommate trying to figure out what the company was because we couldn't recognize the new Kia logo, which I think is obviously the opposite of what advertising's goal is.
And team take. You have a team take?
I do, but I have one more other one quickly.
Okay.
All right. There should be a stat when you drive to the basket, and it's like you get by somebody, not like you're just there. Like you actually make a move, you create an opportunity for yourself, and you miss, but someone then has an easy putback. There should be a stat for that. I checked with a couple analytics friends on the league. There is not. That should be a registered, accounted skill.
What do you think that would be called? Like a...
No idea.
Like a miss assist? Yeah, drive assist.
Yeah, a miss assist. I don't know. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, you could add that in like whip in baseball.
Yeah. And my team take is that I think the Celtics are a legitimate contender to win the title.
What a hot take that is. Is that a hot take?
I don't think it's that hot, but...
They're 40. No, it's not. They're 40 to 1 to win it all right now. They are
pretty blown away by how good they are. Like I'm pretty blown away by how good they are. I was mean, yeah, there was all this talk in December. Oh, it's not going well. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, one's getting traded. And now it's like, wow, the Celtics are a juggernaut. That team's not going anywhere. Everyone's untouchable. Like, it's changed pretty quickly.
It's crazy how fast, like, Marcus Smart's return into that lineup, who was essentially a liability offensively a ton. Just his return, like, they just all of a sudden just started sharing the ball a lot. They're playing elite defense. I want to say like top 2 defense in the league since that time period. Just clamping teams. I don't actually know what happened. Maybe just integrating the things that Ime wanted to do, and they actually just started executing it. Maybe making a couple of moves, with Derek White, obviously that helps, and the emergence of Robert Williams. It went from, what it led me to believe is or think about is how many teams are closer than we think to being good. Because they were a disaster.
They were a disaster.
They were a disaster last year, for sure.
I think,
and like Al Horford, I didn't think he would be helpful really either.
He's been great. I think ultimately that like what is the recipe to springing into success after being pretty poop is to have talent, and that's ultimately why we're in this league where the Sixers are trading Ben Simmons for James Harden, and teams are tanking, and Russell Westbrook's getting traded to the Lakers and all that stuff, because like when you have all-stars who are playing at the peak of their powers, like stuff just gets done. And they've got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and Tatum clearly looks like to be taking even another leap as a general offensive central hub of a team, and the defense surrounding that has been what it's been. Jaylen Brown is still an all-star level player. Derek White addition, Marcus Smart, like it's just same thing with Phoenix, right? Like Devin Booker took that leap, and they bring on Chris Paul, and here they are. Like it's not really that surprising, I think, when you've got talent and depth and defense and shooting.
Yeah. I can't let you go before I ask you my resident Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
Will we see Kyrie play home games? Because it doesn't feel right now, based on the laws needing to change, that we will. And 2, like, how concerning is everything going on with Ben Simmons' back, given his injury history?
Yeah. The back, obviously, I think people were looking at it skeptically at first as like, oh, it's just a reason to not play in that March 10th game. I mean, it's something that's plagued him back to Philly. And from what I was told by someone very close to the situation, as long as they're telling me the truth, this will be accurate, that he was on the court with Nash going well, and then he tweaked something, and it was a setback essentially. And that's why these teams always talk about, ramping up. Like, I really don't think it's bullshit. Like, I think teams take, like, working out, playing with Deontay Christmas in a high school gym is like, they take that very differently than NBA game action, and as they should. So I'm not sure where his status stands right now. I haven't checked in with anybody about it recently, but the last I was told was that like they really do only truly want him to be ready for April. So I think that calculus clearly won't and will not change, that they just want to be as cautious and safe as they can in terms of ramping him back up to playing, because I don't know if Kyrie Irving is going to be able to play home games this year. At this point, the city, I mean, there's starting to be this discussion of, oh, well, the Yankees, them coming back, will that have an added boost to, Kyrie's plight here of trying to make a special exemption, quote unquote, for him or for anybody. But I mean, the city just fired over 1,000 more employees over not getting the vaccine. And lifting the mask mandate is way different than lifting the vaccine mandate. I think the mask mandate being lifted was part of like the goal of the city to encourage people to get vaccinated, to try to urge us back more to normalcy. So I was starting to think that, oh yeah, now that Kyrie's pulling the stunt and going, and which was a stunt. Like, I'm not saying that in any derogative way. Like, it was a stunt to go to the Barclays Center and sit courtside and be maskless as a well-known unvaccinated person. So I guess I don't know what the vaccine requirement situation is if he was allowed in with. I don't. It's the whole thing is obviously so murky, but um, I don't think anything is going to change in terms of what the city and the mayor are going to do to allow him to play basketball games anytime soon. If Brooklyn continues to go further into the playoffs, if they're playing in May and June somehow with him only going at away games, maybe that can change. But at this point, like I don't think there's any optimism that's gonna happen anytime in the near future.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting because they were optimistic at one point because I think they thought that when the vaccination requirements changed for visiting, like for visitors, for people who came in to watch the game, that would change for him as well. And then obviously visiting teams that are non-vaccinated can play as well. So the logic doesn't necessarily really correlate to the fact that a whole law has to change and thousands of people are being let go because of said law. And if you change the law, then what do you do with those people?
Yeah, and he's a millionaire who really theoretically could change this by just getting the shot. So, and I'm not going to tell anyone to do what
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell anyone to do what to do, but that's a clear, easy solution if the Nets and Kyrie do want him to play home games.
Yeah. Well, awesome stuff. We got you out in the time period that I was hoping to get it out under. You're always insightful. We got to do this more. Here's let's test this out. So, Jake, I would like to. I don't have any interest in breaking any news, but I would like to regularly pester you. Is it okay if I call you on the phone? We have some regularly pestering type conversations. Is that okay with you?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All
I
right.
think we spent some time creating the commensurate relationship to do that. I enjoy talking with you. Let's catch up.
Awesome. Thanks so much to Jake Fischer. Definitely check his book out, Built to Lose, How the NBA's Tanking Era Changed the League Forever. Also, if you want to find him on Twitter, he's Jake L. Fischer with a C, Fischer. So definitely check him out there. Not as much of an active tweeter as I would like, but he is a writer as well. So check his work out on Bleacher Report, and we'll definitely have to have you on again soon.